few years. Farai, look at me go, is currently participating in a fellowship in the United States where he's exploring global perspectives on governance, diplomacy, and public policy. So Farai, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I am so excited to have you here. And I haven't, like I said, I've been off kind of, working. Yeah. Instead of doing the things I love, which is, I love my job as well, but I love doing this, and I haven't done it for a while, and so I'm very excited to be here, and I actually have to look up at the camera once in a while. Okay, well, we're going to get started with our interview questions. So let's start with your background, because I think what you're doing is so interesting to me, and I want to know how you actually got there. So can you tell us about your education, what led you to journalism and communications?
Well, I studied at Solusi University. It's southwestern part of Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is about 12,500 miles away from mainland United States, and
you know what, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Just for our audience, just in case, can you tell us where Zimbabwe is located within Africa so everybody knows what you're talking about?
So Zimbabwe is in the southern part of Africa. Okay. And the name Zimbabwe is because it means house of stone. Okay. One of our monuments, which goes back centuries, is made out of mortar that holds the stone together. So it's one of the main heritage sites in the country, and that's where the name of the country came from, Zimbabwe.
That's so cool. I did not know that. Okay, so you're in, you went to school in Zimbabwe for your undergraduate degree. Did. Okay, and tell us about that. What did you major in?
I majored in media studies, and journalism was not even my first love. I did not think I would last in it, but I made a school campus magazine, and the way it took off, the way it changed, people received the information and so forth, and helped in some of the decisions that were made at the university. It gave me this lift that perhaps there was life within the profession in itself. So after university, I went to work at a company called Daily News, one of the three main newspapers in Zimbabwe, where I was a sports journalist. That's where I learned the trade of discipline and deadlines, putting up stories and seeing reactions from it, and really understanding the ecosystem of how news cycles work. I went on to write politics, courts, crime, municipal. I was writing everything I could, and traveling a lot because I was a sports journalist. There are 52 sport codes in Zimbabwe and very few journalists, so that meant I needed to travel with the national team to various countries and locations. So
which sports are your favorite? I'm gonna interject.
No.
What's your favorite one?
I had so many sports. I love many sports. So the thing is, back in high school, we call it high school in Zimbabwe, I played every sport I could: badminton, tennis, table tennis, hockey, cricket, soccer, but I was never good enough to play for my national team. But the people who were my friends, my peers, went on to play for the national team, and I started writing their stories, and that sort of helped me to become a journalist, because I would write their stories and I would find so much joy in doing that. And I never played for my national team, but I could still represent my national team in telling their stories.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, big soccer fan?
I am big soccer fan.
I was a soccer mom. My oldest daughter played soccer, so I'm always very...
Yeah, the adrenaline. I've had the pleasure of going to the World Cup once. I was in Qatar World Cup, front row seat for that. I've had a front row seat to many tournaments. Yeah. So, because of journalism, so that has been amazing.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Okay, continue on with your story. So you got your job at the Daily Mail.
At the Daily News.
Daily News.
Yeah, so that is one of the three main newspapers in Zimbabwe. And I took to it like fish to water. It was an amazing experience. Learned the trade there. Then in around about 2018, I just decided we were not reaching the furthest parts of the country. People were no longer buying newspapers as they used to because of issues of economy and everything. And I quit my job to start up this newsroom on WhatsApp, which was kind of strange for people around me, because I was sitting in a very comfortable job, but I left that to start up to become sort of like a WhatsApp administrator. So my parents were not really fond of it. How would you quit your job to become a WhatsApp administrator? Who has ever done that in this world? Made money from WhatsApp. What are you doing with your life? So, but I just had I don't know what it was. So, but there were 6 million people who were living on WhatsApp in Zimbabwe, and I just thought this is where the information is. And I sort of started to, with my business partner, we sort of set up guardrails and templates and worked days and nights to try and put something together via WhatsApp that would be able to be multiplied across the platform in such a formatted way that would make it easy for people to understand what's going on from an ordinary perspective. So that's how I got into WhatsApp.
So I will say that in the United States, WhatsApp is gaining popularity, but a lot of people are still not aware of it. And I think it's gaining popularity because the population that has family outside of the United States or friends or has traveled outside of the United States has realized, oh, I can use this tool because we have, FaceTime. A lot of people have phones. You can do a lot of the things that you can do on WhatsApp. We already had that within the country, right? Yeah. But people don't realize. So I make my students work together with students in Mexico using WhatsApp, and they're like, what's WhatsApp? And I'm like, well, it's the texting, the same thing, but you can send videos, you can do all of that. And I think that's fantastic that you're using that, number one. I think that's an incredible tool. It's encrypted, so I think it's great that you can send documents through it that are, and keep everything safe. And I'm hoping that the knowledge about WhatsApp and you doing this and sharing that with us shows our population that this is a really big tool. This is not a, just like, oh, I text to my family wherever, or I can use this while I'm traveling because then I don't have to pay for, texting or whatever. I think that's fantastic.
WhatsApp is where life happens. 3 billion people around the world use WhatsApp monthly.
Right.
So we can choose to shy away from it and just decide it's a place of misinformation and disinformation. We're not going to engage with it. But there are 3 billion people there monthly who use it. So that's where my conviction came from, that it's either I take part in this, in helping shape it for the better, or someone's going to use it badly, and those people are still going to remain in those places. So it's a matter of engaging people in places where they are, whether it's TikTok, X, Facebook, and so forth, and creating these pathways for journalists to be able to do their job.
Absolutely. I think it's fantastic. So you kind of talked about the moment or the experience that pushed you to launch, but what made you realize that something needed to change in how news is being delivered? What was your push? Because I feel a lot of the push here is that everything is going into this online realm, and there's, like you said, less paper being printed. Yeah. But how do people get their news? Because I think a lot of us get our news from social media in the United States. And I think your approach is a little better.
Yeah. Now with the world where it's going, it's actually accelerating in that perspective that closed systems are becoming more used than ever before. More people are using it. It's Telegram, it's Viber, it's WhatsApp. There's huge populations that are using these platforms. So that's where my conviction came from. That in Zimbabwe there were 6 million people that were using WhatsApp and were getting their news via this platform already. And for me, it was just a matter of formalizing that. And back then there wasn't WhatsApp channels as it is now, so you sort of we had to formulate around that using groups and everything that was at the disposal back then. Now it's easier to do it, but like I said, much of the population is using these closed spaces, so it's a matter of engaging people where they already are instead of trying to push them to places where they are not. And if we leave them in there, they're still going to face misinformation, disinformation, just as much as whether we're in there or not. So it's up to us to step up, or we let it go.
Absolutely. So I have some more questions for you. So you chose WhatsApp. That's a change for people of how they consume their news. And in a time when there's misinformation everywhere, and I will be honest with you, I probably need to go on your channel because I've stopped listening to news because I'm like, I don't know what's true. And until a few days go by, I hear stories and then I wait. And then my friends are, did you hear this? I'm like, no, I don't pay attention to the news, which is, not probably but I never know whom to trust. So I am one of those people who is weary of misinformation, of stuff getting published and then retracted 2 seconds later, and you never know which is accurate. And it also comes with a lot of depending on like potentially political or whatever the personal views are of the person who's delivering it, which I know news has always kind of had some of that, but right now it feels like all you're getting is opinion instead of facts.
Yeah, I think now it's becoming scary than ever before because it's now if someone has the money, they can control narratives and they can change perceptions in the way that they want. So there's now a plethora of sources of information, and it's become very difficult for the audience to triangulate what is truth, what is objective, what is not. And it's now more hard work to try and really understand what's going on around the world. So that's where we are at the moment, and it's up to the journalists that are already there on the ground and everyone who is seeking objectivity to try and triangulate as much truth as possible, objectivity as possible, and to provide it in the most objective way. So for WhatsApp, people they vote with their subscriptions. The more you go off a tangent, the less people you're going to have. So for you to maintain tens and thousands of people that you already have, it's because you're putting out something where people can resonate with. So we've been able to do that since 2018, 2019, 2020, now in 2025, 2026. So there's been some sort of agreement between the audience and us who are putting out this information that what we're doing is objective and standing on truth. So that's where information age is at the moment. You can't take people for a ride as you could in different spaces before. So I mean now we are stepping up more than ever before. But for your perspective, I know you're now more cautious of news and everything else, but you now have more, you've now have a plethora of places where you can make decisions, and you now have to read more than ever before, and not just expect that if a president speaks, they're going to speak truth. If a newspaper speaks, they're going to speak truth. So I think it's a place where it's an uncomfortable place, but it's a good place where somehow I just see a light at the end of the tunnel if we continue that trajectory.
So when I was young, and we're going back a while, back into the past century, we got our news, you had like the evening news, and you got your news delivered, and you kind of had, and the world news was included in that. So you had this one source, and like you said, it's people, maybe at least older people that are more in my generation, kind of went to one source. And now there's so many sources, and so economically, like how much time do you spend on all of these sources to make sure that what you're getting is the truth? And that's, I think, the challenge for people. Like they pick one source, they hope that it's truth, and then they don't. But you never know if that's what you're getting. And that's kind of how I look at like how much time and effort. Like you said, you have so much, absolutely, there's so much more to
Yeah.
read, but it's a lot of effort to make sense of what is true and what isn't.
Just to pick your outfit today, you probably had to make a choice. Of
Oh, yeah.
What are you gonna do? What are you not gonna do? So
Yeah.
we actually doing this on a daily basis, but we just don't put it to mind that we're actually making informed decisions daily. And there's many things that are informing us. What are we gonna eat? What car are we gonna drive? Where are we gonna go to school and so forth? So there's many factors that are trying to push our minds into certain spaces. So we just have to read as much as we can. And if you've got a platform, you have to be as objective as you can, keep the numbers that you have and build on that. And one day it would all make sense.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Can you share a moment when you saw your work have a real impact, or on people or on communities, like a moment when you went like, oh, this is really working?
Yeah, it sort of happens without really thinking about it. So I started with one person who was receiving my news via WhatsApp, and that person gave a friend gave a family member, and so forth. And I kind of had links at the bottom of each of my news stories, so that allowed me to compound very fast. So if someone wanted to read more of my stuff, they would get onto my platform. And because there were 6 million people that are using this platform, my news would circulate within the broader spaces without people really joining my platform, but they would still be able to, to say, oh, I read this on this platform, I read this on this platform. And before you know it, people in government, cabinet, and so forth, referring to my stories and so forth. And I mean, I'm making a difference there. And person on the street would say, I read this on such and such, I read this on Kokorigo. So, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. So, and I would see my stuff being reposted elsewhere. So that sort of gave validation that what I'm working on is objective. And this process, mind you, it would take me 45 minutes to send out one story across the entire platform, because WhatsApp has many guardrails that don't allow you to distribute news across the platform in that speedily ways. There wasn't WhatsApp channels, so we were building on groups, and you could only send to 5 groups at a time. So I had about 300 WhatsApp groups, and that meant I needed to spend 45 minutes distributing one content. So there was one job to do the story and another one to distribute the content. A lot of long nights and long days, but it was worth it in the end.
I think for me it would be an exciting moment when somebody quotes you that you're like, oh, I noticed my article.
Yeah. And it's never really about the money, it's about the impact. Well, when I started journalism, I think when I got into my first journalism class, because in Zimbabwe, journalists are they're not wealthy people. I don't think they're wealthy people anyway in the world.
I don't think
so. I don't think so. So
I think it's an exciting job.
It
I
is.
Don't know if it's a highly paid job.
Now it has become, because now you can become an owner of your own platform, you advertising and everything around it. But so my lecturer, greeted us with a statement and said, if you want to become rich, you're in the wrong place, but if you want to make a difference, you're in the right one. And I was kind of sad that I wouldn't make money, but I would be able to make a difference. And throughout my entire life, I've just, thought, okay, I can make a difference, I can make a difference. And now it's becoming, it was better back then, 10, 15 years ago. Now you look at the United States, federal funding is being cut, journalists are being thrown out of their jobs, people are not buying newspapers as much as they were because of the economy and everything else, and you just think to yourself, I got into this to make a difference, and it's becoming harder to make a difference. Now journalists are under attack because of, whether they speak truth to power and so forth, they can get, you can have a lawsuit come at you, and you can be drained by the lawsuit to the point of retracting what you said because you're trying to protect yourself and your family. And I've always known one thing, there's no story worth dying for. But when you're in the profession, you're seeing journalists coming under attack for various reasons. So it's been heartbreaking, but I mean, we still soldier on, and there's always light at the end of the tunnel. So we keep doing it.
Well, and I also think you're trying, in you're changing the way that journalism is being done, and you're using the tools that are available to you. And I think that that's the key to, like I said, we expect, the evening news and whatever else. That was our kind of delivery, but that's not the delivery of now. And this is what I think the pivoting for journalism is happening. And I understand, like the funding and everything else. So at this point, you get entrepreneurial like you and start something that you do on your own and go in that direction, because you got to change. The world's changing, and we got to kind of change with it. And we may not like the way that it's changing, but
so
it's changing.
I actually thought this was a Zimbabwean problem, and when I came to the United States via the Humphrey Fellowship, I was able to work with companies who want to go in that direction. So I was a WhatsApp innovation lead for a company called, and an advisor for a company called Newsworld. They recently got a grant to do a WhatsApp first newsroom for San Diego Spanish-speaking communities there, and I was there to help them to guardrails, templates, and so forth. And so this is now, I'm now replicating what I was doing back home, in the United States, and it shows there's room and space for multiple things to happen. So Telegram, Viber, wherever you are, there's room to do a lot of good.
Yes. So what have been the biggest challenges in growing this platform, and how are you planning to reach this goal of 1 million? Like, what's your strategy to get to that? Because you've been word of mouth, I think.
Yeah, never really advertised myself. This is actually my first podcast.
So there you go. I am honored. I'm honored. Look, I'm getting
my first podcast.
And you'll be on YouTube.
This is my first podcast.
And you can advertise that.
I've never gone on radio to speak about this. I've never gone on TV to speak about this. Is actually my first podcast. So this is an amazing platform to be able to do it for the first time. So it's the platform has sort of advertised itself on the WhatsApp and so forth, and been able to monetize it, been doing surveys for embassies, doing very subtle advertising for companies within the spaces, because people are on the platform for the news, they're not there for advertising.
Right.
But at the same time, I need to be able to pay salaries and keep the lights on and so forth. So advertising helps to pay for that, for the continuation of the platform. But it's been a roller coaster experience, and it's been about consistency. It's not been about one story pushing it. Consistency day in, day out, and people connecting with the news, the way it's being delivered, and everything else. I've got in there, I do PDFs, audios, videos, and so forth. Everything is collaborated to make it easy for someone on WhatsApp to just open it and connect with it. Very small text, not much words and so forth, because people on WhatsApp are not there for long text and everything. They're just using it and want to be able to communicate with family and friends and so forth. And actually 1 million is an understatement. I could go past 1 million quicker than I could ever imagine, but I've sort of been holding it back because I want to have a platform that has audio, video, PDFs, and everything else within it, and then I can really speak about it and invite more people in. So it sort of moved faster than I would have wanted. I would have wanted it to move slower, but it's just been testament to everything that has gone on to do it. So
I don't think you're going to be able to slow it down. You already
Yeah.
had even an Al Jazeera article about you.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that you're going to keep going. Like, I don't think you're going to have a pause that you can put into place.
I would not have a pause, but it's a testament. Now I'm also doing some scholarly work around it to also put this so that people in the scholarly field can understand low data systems, how people are using low data systems. I'm using my platform as a case study into that to help students and to help other newsrooms to connect in that way. So it's been an amazing experience.
Absolutely. So you're currently participating in the Humphrey Fellowship here in the United States. Can you tell us a little bit about the program and what you're focusing on, what you're doing with that?
So the Humphrey Fellowship, it's a U.S. Department of State program. It selects one person from one person, sometimes two, sometimes none. So each country has about 500, 6,000 people that are applied to the embassies in those countries to be able to take part in this. And those 500-600 people, they come down to 60, and then they come down to 20, and perhaps about 15 go into in-country interviews. And from those 15 or 10, there's 4 people that remain, and you do some exams. And those 4 individuals, your names are forwarded to the United States from over 69 countries, 69 countries is the last time I checked, 69 or 79 countries. And then in the United States, professors around various universities congregate in Washington, D.C., and then they select one person from each country. So
you're representing the whole country of Zimbabwe, by the way.
Imagine that. So
a little bit of pressure there for you.
Imagine that. So it's only one person that then gets selected from each country to then come on this fellowship program and exchange ideas with policymakers, journalists, researchers, and so forth. And you're placed at a university there's Arizona University, Minnesota, there's various universities where fellows are then placed. And there's a sort of a skills transfer where the fellows can transfer their skills within those universities, and then they can work for various companies where they also have some sort of skills transfer, and it's sort of a balance to it and so forth. So this year, there were 100 fellows that were picked from 5,700 applicants worldwide.
Okay.
So it's been an amazing experience. And then with that, we then have these community colleges where we can also just go and impart what we know and try and help people to see the world differently.
Absolutely. This is... I mean, I'm thrilled that you're here because it's so interesting to talk to somebody and to hear about what they're doing, right? Because sometimes, if you don't hear the story, right, that's the danger of a single story, right?
Yeah.
People don't realize what is happening around the world. Yeah. And particularly, I think in the United States, we have this image because we are an advanced economy, we're an advanced educational system. We have all of that. We think everybody else is not doing, and there's plenty of people around the world doing great, wonderful things that we're not doing that we could learn from. And I think that's fantastic that you're here to share all of the knowledge and what you're doing with us. I mean, like I said, I have some students who've never heard of WhatsApp, and I'm like, hello, like it's a worldwide used platform and you don't even know about it. So I think it's important to have this exchange.
No, it is very important. So whilst I'm here, like I said, I speak to policymakers, to experts, researchers. Because I'm in WhatsApp, I was able to speak to people in Meta to understand their perspective, what way they want to take the platform, how they want to interact with it, and what I'm doing within that platform and so forth. So I've had some productive discussions with them regards where I want to take it, where their guardrails end, and what's possible for me, what isn't possible for me. So it's been a very good experience, and I get to impart what I know now. Like I said, I was a WhatsApp innovation lead / advisor for a company that was starting up a WhatsApp first newsroom in San Diego. into how they can be able to do this. So I sat around a table with journalists to reorient them in the way of distribution news via WhatsApp and how they can be able to do it. Because you could go and chat GPT on AI and so forth and try and understand it from that perspective, but you will never really get it unless you speak to people who've been doing it for years in that perspective. So for me, now there's WhatsApp channels, but I would still encourage anyone who wants to start to do this to do it via groups, because WhatsApp channels gives you that, it sort of acts as a, there's a way in which it's sort of like a spam folder, unless you trigger it that if every message that you receive, you want to have a trigger alert that you've received something via channels. But in groups, you can have your message travel around the world because people just forward it, and among family, friends, and so forth, and you can make more impact in that more than anything else. So it's been a very good experience.
And I wanted to ask you, so I was going to ask you before, and you just reminded me again. What's your thought on news and AI?
It's
the Chat GPT world, and Claude now is going to have agents, and you can probably train your agent to write news stories. And
you can.
What
can
is
do
your
all
thought
these
on
things.
that?
You can. Ultimately, people will still want authenticity. They still want to hear people's voices. They want to know things are triangulated from primary evidence sources. So AI might accelerate, might be able to make things better, but people will still want to be able to get the news from, you're not going to go out of business as podcasts and so forth. You're still going to be in business. And I see people are going to move back to more traditional ways. But it's a good experience that we now have these platforms that can help us to be able to maneuver easier than before.
Okay, so what has this experience, this fellowship that you're doing, how has that made you think about your work and like your long-term mission?
Yeah.
Now that you've been here and experienced this, what are you taking back to Zimbabwe?
So when I got here to the United States, I was a journalist. Well, I thought of myself as a journalist who has a WhatsApp first news platform that is augmented around groups and so forth. And I had a chance to work with companies that are starting up in WhatsApp and so forth. But I also had a chance to speak to students, and I say to myself, how can I translate what I know into something that becomes sort of immortal, or that becomes sort of a way that even if I'm not there, this information can still be shared around without my presence. So I came up with, I wrote up a playbook that focuses on that uses my work, Kukurigo, what I've been doing for the last eight or so years as a case study. So this playbook is, you read it with the curricula. So this is a module that you can take for a week or 2 weeks to better understand lower data systems, messaging systems. Mm-hmm. And it just sort of encourages students, people in newsrooms and everything else, that within these spaces, you can still operate in spaces where there's no tools for journalists to operate. You don't need to wait for the system designers to create journalistic tools for you to be able to operate in those systems. So this playbook and this curriculum hopefully will be introduced in various universities and colleges, and it would help students to just open up their minds and be able to maneuver in these systems and create their own way of life within these systems, and it's just an encouragement to to not just be boxed down into thinking in one way, but to open yourself up to multiple ways.
So the American way would be to tell you you need to monetize your book.
Yeah, actually,
just a suggestion.
It is because where I come from, it's a lot of the stuff I do it for free. I just give it out for free because my perspective is I want to make an impact. So, but now with everything else,
it's all wonderful and great to make an impact, but you also want to make sure that you can continue to make impact, and the way to continue to make impact is to monetize some of that.
It is.
It
is because, I mean, if
I'm business faculty. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's
No. That's the correct way of seeing it, because ultimately it helps me to pay the bills. It helps me
Right.
to grow my platform, whatever the finances I get from there. It helps me to become bigger
Right.
and to create a better project for the people that are already receiving my news. So ultimately, it all makes sense.
yes. I'm going to do a this or that,
Yeah.
kind of like, which one do you like?
Yeah.
And you'll have to tell us what this first one is, because I read about it, but I'm not going to introduce it. You will introduce
Yeah.
it. So, sadza, or something you tried in the United States that you really like. So, what's sadza?
Sadza is it's made out of corn. So
Mhm.
it's we grind our corn and we make it into starch, and then it's many other people call it pop. So it doesn't really have a taste to it, but it's a way in which if you had this pop with vegetable and meat and everything else, you can probably go the whole day without eating anything else.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's filling.
it's very filling. It is very filling, and it's
So maybe like a. Like
and you have to eat it with your hands.
Oh,
If you
okay.
try eat it with fork, knife, or chopsticks or anything of that sort, it won't taste as good as it does eating it with your hands.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would.
Anything you tried in the U.S.
I
that
did.
beats that?
I tried so much. I went to 4 Thanksgiving dinners because I'm new to the United States. Everyone was
That's
just
a lot of
inviting,
turkey there, buddy.
was just inviting me to Thanksgiving. Come for Thanksgiving. I'm having it on Friday. I'm having it on Saturday. So I was saying to myself, I'm going to have the best Thanksgiving I can ever imagine. So I went to the first one. I was not really. It
Not
didn't
impressive.
It didn't meet expectation. I thought, okay, maybe it's just the first one. I went to the second one. I said, the third one, fourth. I say to myself, this turkey. I don't know what's going on. Is this turkey? What's going on? I didn't. At the fourth one, I was just having drinks and vegetables. I was like, I don't know what's going on with this turkey.
Yeah, I can do turkey like when you cook it on Thanksgiving, I can have it that day.
Yeah.
I can never have it the day after. And I have it once like on Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
but then, I'm done with it.
And when you
for the
see it
year.
on sitcoms, on TV, and so forth, it's so delicious. I'm like, when I get to the
They're
United
actors,
States,
you know that, right?
yeah, I'm gonna have so much turkey. I'm gonna have so much burgers. I got ya, and I just tasted, and I just said, wow. I don't know. I don't know. I just said, what's going on?
All right, late nights or early mornings? Which one are you?
Late nights.
Late nights?
Yeah, late nights. Early mornings. I like to sleep in.
There you go. Local stories or global headlines?
Local stories for impact.
Oh, I
Yeah,
like that. I
yeah,
like that. I
yeah.
like that. Okay, Zimbabwe sunsets or Chicago skyline?
I was coming in, flying into O'Hare Airport, and you can
And
see.
they did the loop around the lake, and then you
can
flew
see
into the city.
skyline of Chicago, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is amazing.
I would say
And-
probably one of the best skylines you can get around.
Yeah.
Although when they fly into Boston, you also fly off
Yeah.
the water, and it lands like that,
Yeah.
and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I've been to over 10 states.
Yeah.
In the 9 months I've been here, over 10 states. Traveled to more states than maybe ordinary people would, because of seeing people, talking to different personalities and everything. And I've always had a window seat to see what's going on, and it's just been an amazing experience. But if you ever get a chance to visit Zimbabwe, there's something called the Zambezi River, and there's a sunset that sits there in the Zambezi on a boat cruise of sorts. It's amazing. And if you get lucky,
I'm always happy to come.
You
Send
should.
an invitation.
if
I'll
you
be
get
there.
lucky and the hippos are
Oh wow!
on the surface of the water and so forth, and the sun is setting a big red sun, you don't see it like that anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And you can build you can build all these things that we see around the world, the buildings and so forth, but some things are just so natural, you get them in one place.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
give me
now I want to go to
Zimbabwe sunsets on the Zambezi every day.
We'll take that. All right. Well, we're going to finish up. Thank you for coming. This was an amazing conversation. I'm so excited to have you here. So if you like this conversation, please like and follow us on Instagram at Global Ed Unpacked. You can also watch the recorded show on YouTube channel at Global Education Unpacked and listen to the audio version on your favorite podcast platform. When I finally put them out there, you will have them there. This episode was recorded at WHCM Radio in Palatine, Illinois, produced by I cannot talk. What was that? Produced by Blue Bailey, and features theme music by DJ Double Dip called Mint. You can find all his stuff on whatever platform you listen to for music. Thank you for listening, and until next time, please continue exploring the world through education.